Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Have another interesting video here. This time working on a very nice M3. I think it's a 2011. Let me check the information on the car very shortly. As you can see, I have already hands-on repairs. I recommended to replace coils and plugs just based on mileage. These cars are well known for misfires and so on, especially on the mileage this car is in. We also send an oil sample to make sure we are still in a safe area because of the rod bearings, which is another common failure on these engines, and you want to make sure that you do those before it's too late. But again, that will give us results when we get the answer from the lab on the oil sample. All right, so but the customer concern in here is an uneven idle. Only when he is on gear with a brake on, with a brake push or standing on a stop or something. Again, this is a manual dual clutch transmission, so is you can do manual shifting, you can have it on drive, but it's always going to be a clutch in there. So that's just the way these vehicles are. So when he is an idle, it's a very uneven idle, in just when you're in that position. Um, I did. Obviously try to diagnose the vehicle. I gave some recommendations. I couldn't find any faults related to the issue, which is, I check auto sensors activities, and I'm going to show you the data in a little bit. And I noticed that both fuel trims were really, really rich. To the point that the computer was actually taking fuel away. This is a MAP sensor pressure. So since this is a map sensor, when you have an intake leak or so, and it start to go lean like a MAF engine will do, this will go rich, which is a very common failure for map sensor engines. I did a smoke test and I noticed that we have a little bit of a leak on the same map sensor. I'm going to show you where this is located and why I have so much off of the car. I'm going to show you the intake and how this look. You have to be careful when you're removing this. It has connections. They are, you know, I mean, it's not that all of the vehicle, but they're always plastic and very brittle, so be careful. You're gonna have this connection in here. Don't, don't you love impact guns? And then another hose that now is removed because obviously I removed the air, auxiliary air pump and all the stuff, and it's not in here, but yeah, it's a connection right here on the back. Actually, I have the hose here. So yeah, this is the hose that you have to be careful on the back. It looks like that. It's just on the back and it connects to the again crankcase ventilation and intake pressure system. All right, so let me take you over to faults. So this is for those that wants to know. This is an E93 and the year is a 2011. It's a S65 V8. When you have the S85, that's a B10. This is the B8 engine. As you can see, we didn't have anything related to map condition. We have a coolant thermostat monitoring is permanent or present. I recommend those repairs. Obviously, we are going to do that, but we are now working on the idle condition, which is his main concern. All right, I want to show you the captures that I have, so I don't need to have the car running. Um, so what I did is I have obviously, well not obviously, I got the engine speed here so we can see that. I like to use the Snap-on, the SUS Plus or any Snap-on really diagnostics will give you this advantage is to graph all the pits and you're gonna have a blue cursor. Hopefully you can see it very well on the camera where then you can move and it's going to move all the pits at the same time, not just only the ones on the graph, everything. So if you scroll up, like I have right now for here, but I can scroll all the way down, and as you can see, that blue cursor is everywhere. So what I did is I put the ones that I want to show or I am more concerned on the tab and then analyze. And this is usually how I analyze the information. All right, so we can definitely see we got the map intake map pressure as inches of mercury, and we can definitely see that we got a low pressure and a rich condition. So I'm going to go back to like when the engine is off. Obviously right here we got zero and we can see current as zero. So hopefully Yeah, right there. You can see the current in the graph. Is going to be very handy to see this. But yeah, so as I move forward, as soon as the car starts, we can see the long terms right here, right? We're immediately in minus 18 and minus 19. So this is the memory because we can see the short terms where our, yeah, the short terms are in 0 and 0. Again, look at the fuel trims in here, or not the fuel trims, the fuel system is still on open loop. So we're going to move forward. I'm going to move forward until I find the closed loop. We can immediately see a change as soon as it goes into closed loop. Now the short term is went up immediately, right? Not high, but it went up. We can see now the short term is not in 0. The computer is going to try to start doing changes so we can correct the issue. This time the map it was reading 18, which is now that's a little better, but it's still low. So as I go down, let me just find a sweet spot. Now we have minus 9, minus 12. So as you can see, it's not that bad now on this exact moment, but we'll go down to a point that the computer can no longer take control. I want you to also see these values in here. I got the bank one current. I cannot see voltage on these sensor. This is OBD2 data. So it's just, I didn't mention that before. Hopefully the glare is not so bad. I'm trying to cover as much slides as possible. Again, we are in closed loop. I'm going to try to find a sweet spot where everything goes into, yeah, right there. Okay, we start immediately seeing problems. Right here, we have, remember, the car was kind of like running okay, and this is, when things change. We can see the short term immediately went up. Now the long terms are pretty much pegged out. We got minus 26 on bank 2 and minus 25 in bank 1. Positive values in short term. So the computer is in control. The auto sensors are trying to keep this car running properly with emissions, right? Because as long as the short term is showing 0, that means the computer was able to correct whatever problem was and then make the emissions in the tailpipe correct. I want you to see, look at the values now on the intake map sensor, 11.8. That's no good, right? Remember when we were kind of like, okay, I mean, it's still 11% or so, which will be considered normal, right? 10% or so, even better. So whenever we got 18 inches of mercury on the map, which I have also on the bottom if you want to see it on the graph, it was good. But when the pressure on the map decays, the fuel trims go nuts. And that's what we're seeing here. So that's what I'm seeing, and that's what is happening as soon as we are, in 27%. Look at right here, right where it stop. You can see right here in current minus 27 and minus 27. Both banks are exactly the same. Short terms are in 0, so that's pretty much the value. But look at the map value, 10.3. That definitely is no good. So based on this, I recommend him to do a test on the wire integrity of the map sensor, which is the next test that I'm doing. And I'm going to show you where the map is located. Let me get a mirror because, well, right now I have the map removed and it's easy to see, but I want to show you where that is located and why I have all this removed. I will probably put pictures of the disassemble. It's very straightforward. All you got to do is, I have ISTA, I can follow directions and I can read information. I have done this many times, so I don't really need to, but I always check repair information so I don't miss anything. I always go with torque specs. I have even pictures of me torquing the spark plugs and it's already done. So this is the map sensor right here, the map MAP, and I want to show you where it's located. So look at the mirror and see that hole. So this vehicle uses these two pipes that goes into this um, other device in the back. I'm gonna give you the correct name. I don't want to say a name and then it's incorrect and it's not right to tell you that. And then it has the other pipe in here, all interconnected with hoses onto the crankcase system with this unit in here. And then the map sensor is on the back right there. So very, very hard to reach. That's what I recommend to do the test on the wiring harness. And I have a new sensor already here because I'm not going to do all this disassemble and then try to use this the same sensor. So I have the sensor original from the factory, just waiting in here. As you can see, it's brand new, obviously brand new ring. Also the one thing that it was funny for me is because this is a four wire, four pin. Let me put my glasses to make sure the camera is actually in um, in focus. So yeah, you can see right there we got four pins. So this is a T-map. Even in the back says T-map. Looking at the wire diagram before, I only saw three wires. I'm like, why is there calling T-map? Is this just a map sensor? Well, actually, it's a T-map. But then going into the connector here, as you can see, I'm not backprobing. I'm piercing the wires and I will seal those. I'm going to show you what I use for sealing. But yeah, it's only three wires. So they have a T-map sensor here, but they're only using it as a map sensor. One thing you have to be careful with this system is when you're doing this test, this has a short harness that goes from the map sensor down in there and then it connects into this plug. It's going to be a little hard to show, but yeah, this plug in here, as you can see, I got everything removed because I need to gain access to that sensor on the back. And so, yeah, make sure that that is connected. If you're having problems with the readings, make sure that you do the next test in this connector because it might be a difference of voltage from there to here if you see something abnormal. All right, so right now, let me go over to ISTA and I'm going to show you why I recommend to always use the original information and why it's so powerful to have this. I mean, anyone can have access to this, which is, I mean, just get a day or a month. I think it's like $30 a day and you will gain access to all this information. If you need to do programming, you will need the ICOM next. I think Cardacam will be able to do programming as well, and I have it, but I use the ICOM because we are BMW shop, right? So, but if you just want it for diagnosis, you can pretty much use any J pass-through device, and it will connect to the car, and it will be able to do diagnosis, and you will be able to see exactly what I'm looking in here. All right, so what I usually do since I'm not having any fault codes for the map sensor is I go over to vehicle manage, troubleshooting, and then I go over to function structures. You see all these tabs in here. Try to, play with it. If you go over to component and structure, you can see control units. Try not to make it too perfect because otherwise it will not show you sometimes the information you're looking for. I usually, when I'm looking for modules, I just click in modules and let it populate it here. Like that, I will have, connectors. I will have all the wire diagrams, and um, you see all SSP are wire diagrams. But you can see I got, DME and etc. there. But yeah, going back to what I'm doing, why function structure? Well, this is a sensor, so you want to go over to a function. You want to go over to powertrain, right? So that we're going to close all these. We're going to start like I'm doing it the first time. We're going to go to motor electronics, right? So all the sensors, all the actuators on the motor, on the engine. You click in there, and then you can click again. Let me close all this so you can see. We're going to go over to air supply, intake vacuum, intake pipe vacuum. That's how BMW names the pressure sensors on the intake side, the map. All right, so we're going to click on that, and then now we can click on there, and we do get the um, wire diagrams. Why is so important to use ISTA instead of air? Okay, let me open air here. You see I have a button in here that says air. If I click there, this is going to open the web browser, and it's going to open air, which is going to show almost the same things. And I want to show this to all you guys. So if you're a mechanic, a technician, and you're trying to work in European cars or a BMW brand, this is the way you want to go. All right, so I can do the same thing. I can go over to wire diagrams, right? I can go over to functional structure, and then I will go over to powertrain, motor electronics, the same way, right? And then I will go over to air supply. Let me just make sure I can find the same thing because sometimes they name it different. Don't ask me why again. Thank you, BMW, for changing all the stuff that you have named in one system and then changing another one. But yeah, we do have air supply here. And then, okay, we got the intake manifold pressure sensor, right? So you said, well, why do you need the ISTA open then? Okay, let me show you. So when you're here, this is all you can see, and it gives you, if you look at clear, if you click in there, it tells you where the sensor is located, which is very accurate. As you can see, this is the um, air pump for emissions as well, and everything is there. You can see the connections, and if you click on the wire, it says there are no related documents in here. So, okay, well, if you're looking at this wiring, which one is power, which one is ground, which one is the sensor signal, right? So you don't know. If you go over to air, I mean not air, ISTA, you see right here where it says overview. If you click in overview, now you can click, it opens these documents. Air doesn't give you that. Air is more for parts and repair information, which you can also get repair information here, but the flat rate units and parts is in air. But they give you wire diagrams if you want to see something quick. If you really are doing diagnosis, this is the way you want to go. All right, so you go to lines. And now when I open this, look what it's saying. 31 is ground connection, ground. ASDF is signal intake manifold pressure sensor, and USTF is supply intake manifold pressure sensor. So USTF supply, so that's my fiber reference. ASDF is my signal, and obviously the other wire is going to be my ground. So no more guessing. I have everything I need to test properly that sensor. That's why it's important to use ISTA. All right, so now I'm going to go over to my test. Right now, as you saw, back probing the sensor. I can use the sensor ground, or I can use the chassis ground, engine ground. I already checked those. Make sure that you, before you do any tests, you check voltage drop to make sure that you don't have a bad engine ground, and then now all your tests will be not valid. You have to have a good ground. If you don't want to do a test, then run a wire all the way to the battery, and then do your test with the ground on the battery ground cable. All right. But otherwise, like I did a voltage drop test, and I know that what I'm doing is correct. So, all right, so we are now connected, or I am now connected into the, uh, let me see what kind of color is that. Hard to say. This says to both red violet. Well, they call that red violet. Yeah, it has a red wire. So I'm in the red violet. And you can see also too, if I'm in pin 2, if I click here, that will also, well, I should have just clicked in here. Let me see if, yeah, because this is the connector view. Again, um, we can see that pin 2 is USDF. If you want to see again that, you have to click, don't hit close because I will close the document. When you're here, let's say, again, let me do that again. If I click in here, I can go full screen. I click right in this area and I go full screen, that should show only that. I click again on full screen, that will remove that. If I click on this side and I click full screen, and now it's full screen on that side. That's what you want to do. Because otherwise, if you close, it will close the document. I mean, you can always just open it, but just so you use the system properly. All right, so let me see the connector. Yeah, that's not showing the connector, but um, let me zoom out. So we know that the power, which is in pin 2, that's exactly what I am connected, and then the sensor signal will be into pin 1. All right, so I am in pin 2, and my reading is 5 volts. So what you want to do when you're doing this is also, don't just, oh, that's perfect, right? So you want to do wiggle tests. Make sure, One second, guys. So I was saying that it's very important that you do wiggle tests, especially when you have, a connector. I mean, this harness is really well built because it's actually bolted into the engine. It looks like nobody has ever done anything in here, so I don't really think it's going to be a problem with the harness. Not in here, but you know, I'm here. I am getting paid to do the test, so I definitely want to do this while I am. Let me turn this around. So while you're doing that, you want to make sure that you go and check that. So I'm wiggling the harness, wiggling the connector, everything is fine. So, and I already did this, and everything is fine. Then you can go, and that's what I like to do. I change, now I have, again, three pairs and connectors in here. I'm going to go over to the sensor signal, and we have on the sensor signal, I mean, this is uh, 3.9 volts, so that is the sensor signal. And I can do the sensor ground, which is the other one, and we can see the ground is around 0.043, so that's 43 millivolts. That's a very good ground. Another thing that I like to do, and that's what I also got the scanner connected, is okay, we know now all the connections, we know where we are, is everything correct. I can go now into vehicle information, I can select the DMV. You select the DME and then call up control unit. This is how you do it in ISTA. Diagnostic request. And then let me see what we have here. See intake air temperature, ambient pressure. Nope. Let me see. Fuel pump. I hope I can read that in here because this is the problem, with BMW engineers. They think that technicians are dumb people. So they give very minimum information. If you want or have a problem with a sensor, run the test plans and wait for a result and do what they said you need to do. Really? Come on. I need information. I'm the one fixing the cars. It's like, but yeah, that's the way BMW software is built. It's not really technician friendly. It's do what we said, and that's it. So that is sometimes very problematic because then you don't get the information that you need. Nominal, yeah, that's this throttle body. So let me go into each and see if I can find it. Nope, general, oil pressure. I don't see it in here. Nope. Injection periods. Nope. We already were there, but let's do it again. Ambient pressure and now intake air temperature, which is in a separate uh, connector. Oxygen sensor. There's just the oxygen sensors, nothing in here. Um, this is just the hardware for the computer. We were already here and we were already here, so no, I cannot see it. Um, hmm. So things we can do, let me think, because we can do, let me do a text search. Well, actually, let me go back to functional structure, fault pattern, fault memory, component fault pattern, make sure in preparation. Let me see if I can find anything related to the intake pressure sensor because these are the test plans. So these are you can then click calculate test plan. Some sensor for control unit. This is not even on this car, so very not for here. Let me just see if I find it. Give me 1 second, guys, to see if I find this and then see if in the test plan I can at least see the pressure without running the car or anything. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, I was able to find the information. I was trying to connect to the screen, but that didn't work. So, all right, so we're reading with ambient pressure or, exposed to the ambient right now. So it should read the same as the ambient pressure sensor. So if we go over to ISTA, I was trying to look for something else, but so we go to air supply. I was in the correct place, but I didn't see that here. You can see the wire diagrams and ABL is the test plan. So if I click in here, let me, how get I the keyboard out of here, up right here. So we are going to see read out intake manifold pressure. Thank you so much to put them into a test plan like I was saying before, and not on the actual pits on the computer. So we are seeing in there the ambient pressure sensor and the intake manifold pressure are about reading the same. So I'm going to unplug the sensor. I'm going to unplug it here at the connector that I told you before. All right, so now this should change, and it did change. So we can see it went to 1290 something. Um, Let me get, we are reading 3.92 volts. So the the thing with this, yes, reading ambient pressure, it might be good, but when the sensor is going down to read the vacuum in the engine, is it reporting that correctly? Do we have a leak or we have a bad sensor? I'm replacing the sensor either way. So the other test that you can do, and I like to always do this, is I gather, let me, 1 second, guys. All right, guys. Now I have the test line connected to power. In this chance, we're going to be reading the same on here, and I'm going to show you what the difference is. Because before I unplugged the connector here, so we couldn't see that the computer is actually sending a 5 volt bias to do wire integrity on the sensor. So if I now pull this up, we can see when I pull it up, it reads 1292. If I move this to ground, remember, use a test light. Don't do this without a test light. You will be, it's a possibility you will be damaging the computer. So, yep, pull it down. We got 41 point something millibar. If I go over to Pico, this is what I want to show. When I'm pulling it down, like the ground is showing 41 millibar. Why? When it was open, it was showing zero. Well, it's because I'm connected on the sensor, not on the harness, right? So when I unplug in here, now we got an open, we cannot see that voltage going there. So if I remove now the test light, so we know that the integrity of the computer is reading good. We might have a bad sensor, a vacuum leak, right? The sensor, which I have seen on the smoke, it was coming from that O-ring on the sensor. I am going to put the sensor new no matter what. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the sensor so we can see that 5 volt bias in there. 1 second. All right, guys, with the sensor unplugged, it's still connected onto the sensor signal, right? Remember it, that should have no voltage. It has voltage. You see what I mean? So with the sensor open, the computer is sending a 5 volts, almost 5 volts to the sensor for wire integrity. When that is unplugged, the sensor will read 1239 because it's now 5 volts, even though it's not really the 5 volts that we have on the 5 volt reference, but it's a 5 volts bias for testing. And that's how the computer knows that we have an open. So this is, again, conclusive that we indeed have no problems on the wire integrity for the map sensor, and that we might have a skew sensor with not a plausible signal or a leak. Either way, for the position of this sensor and everything, I'm going to put it new. But now I'm confident that everything as far as wire integrity on this sensor is good. And this is how you do tests on this system, guys. Hopefully you like this content. This is a lot of good information. I know this is very technical. This is for technicians and um, persons that are learning how to do wire integrity tests, how to use ISTA, and I'm trying to share all that with you all. Thank you so much for visiting the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.